What secrets do we carry? And what would happen if these secrets got out? That's the question I'm asking myself for the second episode of Lovecraft Country, Whitey's on the Moon. I'm Fox Indigo. You are listening to Fox on Flix with friends. And I love to watch movies and television series all from the global Black diaspora and share them with you, my audience. Since we are friends, what I am asking you to do is to please share this podcast with about 2 friends of yours who would like to discover something different, broaden your horizons, and just want to watch Black excellence. Also, I'm here with a friend, Mackenson. He was here for our last episode. And while you go ahead and you share this with a friend, we're just going to take a quick break. And we're going to thank Anchor for sponsoring this episode. Greetings, friends. I'm Fox Indigo. You're listening to Fox on Flix with friends. I'm so happy that you can join us for the second episode of Lovecraft Country. I'm here with my friend Mackenson. Say hello, Mackenson.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
We're really happy to have you guys here. And again, we are reviewing Lovecraft Country that you can be found streaming on HBO. Unfortunately, there is only one season, but we thought this was like such a great show that you needed to go back and revisit all like the different themes. So I mean, before we get, into the episode, I just wanted Mackenson to share just a little bit about himself with the audience.
Young Haitian American from Brooklyn, New York.
Oh, I didn't know you were Haitian.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
absolutely.
I didn't know that at all.
Mm-hmm.
My best friend was Haitian. I grew up with her. I lived with her. I was emancipated when I was about 15.
Okay.
So I lived with her from the time I was 15 until about 18, 19. But even after that, when I would come back home, her family was my family, almost to the point where her aunts were my aunts, her uncles were they were my tatis, they were my uncles. I was in weddings, I went to family reunions, to the point where actually other family members really thought that I was blood.
And you were, in a sense, right? So, G. Cole Suspa, all
yes,
that.
Yeah. I wanted my soup on the first.
I actually didn't have no soup either, though.
Oh, no? Yeah, I didn't. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I feel kind of connected to you. Yeah. Well, so anything else you want to share?
It's odd speaking about yourself, right?
It is.
It is. Writer, creative mind, philosopher.
And I'm really happy that you're actually joining me doing this, because like I said, when I first watched this, I wanted to do a podcast with somebody, but I didn't have there was nobody watching it. Nobody in my circle was watching it. Everyone was like, I don't want to watch. 1, it's a period piece. 2, it's sci-fi. And I was just like,
well,
I do not know you're missing.
Appreciate you having me, and this is one of the greatest shows to me. So
yeah. Well,
it's only
thank
fitting.
You. Let's change this up. So, if you guys were listening, last week's episode was Sundown. We had just been introduced to Atticus, Letitia, and their uncle. I forget what the uncle's
Uncle
name
George.
is. Uncle George. And they were searching for Atticus's father, who went in search for Atticus's mother's birthright. And he went to I can't remember the name of the town now. Which was in like Massachusetts.
Yeah, I just remember it starts with an A or something.
Right. I'm trying to remember what the name is. But what I actually wanted to get into was, okay, so the area that they are apparently in is supposed to be like in New England. And I know that last time I was talking about where the name comes from, Lovecraft. Oh, you found the name?
I didn't find it.
Oh, okay.
I would have to go in depth to try to see.
All right. So So Lovecraft actually, he was a sci-fi writer in the early 1900s, and he was considered like really weird. I told you he had like mental issues. So I read up a little bit more about him, and I found out that he had like a group of writers, and they called themselves like the Lovecraft. And Lovecraft, actually, he himself coined the term Lovecraft, and it was an actual fictional place in the New England area that he wrote about. Now, Lovecraft Country itself, the show, is actually a book that was written in 2016. So even though the show is written by Misha Green, who is a Black writer, she wrote Underground, that was on I can't remember what network, but it also had Journey Smollett in it as well. Which was actually really good. It only lasted for 2 seasons. I don't know why. It's like Misha has good luck and bad luck because she gets her shows like made, but they're never on longer than I think like 2 or 3 years.
And it's crazy you say that because watching this episode, Whitey's on the Moon, I was like, oh, I see why they took this on.
Well, what I found interesting is that the writer of the actual story, Lovecraft Country, is actually a white man. He's from Queens. And I did some research on him because I wanted to know, like, this show is really Black. Like, when you actually sit down and you are watching the themes and the stuff that they're talking about and the history, it's really
extremely
Black. So what I found out was that he took the name Lovecraft from H.P. Lovecraft. One, there's that connection of Lovecraft being like extremely racist, and then Lovecraft is actually a mythical area in New England that he wrote about. But what Matt Ruth, I think his name is Matt Ruth, what he did was that he took the horrors that were happening to African Americans during the Jim Crow era and sci-fi, and he merged them together. So that's actually the background of the actual books. And so now I really want to read the book. So it's the horrors of what African Americans went through here, plus the sci-fi horror aspect that he mixed together.
Implemented into it.
So I thought that was really, I thought it was really interesting. And I want to, find out a little bit more about him. I saw that there was a few interviews with him, and I'm really curious as to, what his background is and why he chose one, where his thought process was, like, why did he choose just Black American history, foundational Black American history, to highlight the horrors? Like, where were the parallels? Like the horrors, like, I don't know if you get what I'm saying. Like, why?
Yeah. It's kind of the same thing I was asking the last time we did this, just when I thought it was H.P. Lovecraft himself. Like, oh, I wonder what made him, write so much truths into the story. So what's his name?
His name is Matt Ruth.
Listen, Matt, shout out to you. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And I found out he was from Queens. So, and I think it's actually pretty amazing that he wrote this book in 2016, and by 2020 it was already a show.
Okay.
So we'll I guess dive into that, some more, and I guess you give the audience like a little bit more, and maybe like people want to look it up themselves and find out. Yeah, look into the book.
Try to see what's going on. Try to find out what's going on with Matt.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt, hit us up, though.
Yeah. Like, just to think like someone decided to highlight hidden history, because that's really kind of like how I look at this show. And when I was doing more research and I was reading up, and they were discussing in a lot of the writings that I had like stumbled upon, they were saying how the show has a lot of history that a lot of people don't know about Black America. A lot of things that like really happen that you think are not real or are horrifying, but these things actually happen. People actually live through them, experience them. So just like I said, the intermingling of like the science fiction that's not real and then the historical fiction, and just like how he merged the two.
Definitely need to set some time aside to really dive into that.
I don't know. Maybe like you said, Matt, like maybe since he's from Queens, like maybe if we get to the end, maybe somehow we can reach out to him. You never know, and just kind of.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
We want to talk to you.
Yeah, because I was listening to like other people's breakdowns and everything, and I was like, I don't know. I not to like disparage anyone, but I just kind of wasn't like too impressed. It was just kind of like more of a breakdown of like, this is what happened, but I feel like there's deeper,
like so many different levels.
Yeah, so there's much like, deeper stuff happening.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
So this episode, I want to ask you, so the episode was called Whitey on the Moon. And just even another thing about that. So if some of you listening don't know, so Whitey on the Moon was actually a spoken word piece from, I want to say, the late 60s or 70s. It was a spoken word piece by Scott Gill Hilron called Whitey on the Moon.
Great piece. You can hear it in the episode.
Right. And it's at the very end of the episode when Atticus is being used as an energy source.
Right. And even that is crazy.
Right. And so I thought that was an interesting title for the episode, but I guess it does fit when you do watch the episode, because that whole spoken piece is really about how, Black society is struggling daily for every little day thing.
Everything, and then Whitey's on the moon.
Right. I feel like it says it all. Like there's nothing else to say. Like I can't pay my bills. There's a homeless person on the street, I
gotta pay taxes.
Right, but somehow Whitey's on the moon. Right,
you know what I mean? Literally and figuratively, you know what I mean? So like literally, I'm pretty sure around that time, they're trying to go to the moon.
Right, because it was after the whole Armstrong, so it really fits. And then to think what Atticus was going through, like I said, him being the energy source for this group.
And in the same way as, Black America being the energy source for
Whitey being on the moon. You're right.
Yeah. So, man.
So what like really stood out to you in this particular episode?
I think for me it's the moment in the lodge where it's like okay, let's see if what we believe to be true is actually true. George stands up and he's like, I believe Atticus is one of them. You know what I mean? And it's just like that moment of or even before then when he came into the room and he was like, Mr. Braithwaite, the son, whatever, he's like, just because they don't want you here doesn't mean you're not supposed to be here. Right,
giving him that hint.
It's like, yo. Giving him that
hint, which is such an even deeper thing, right? Because, I mean, I know, a little bit of the history of Haitian slavery and other slavery in like Brazil, but a big thing here, which is actually a little bit different from Brazil, because in Brazil, actually, a lot of their slave masters actually claimed their children, which was very different from here.
Okay.
Here, masters were having, children with their slaves all the time, and they were slaves. Like, he wasn't claiming them.
Yeah, no.
So
probably have them killed.
Right, or you're just a slave. Right. You're just another slave on, I know you're my kid. Everybody knows you're my kid.
But you won't be treated as such.
Right, but you're not treated as such. So to me, that was like another peel back of the onion. Like you said, like just because they don't want you here
doesn't mean you don't
belong here. You know what I'm saying? I think that's a real powerful message. Right. And then Uncle George actually like, I'm going to test that theory.
Let's see how much you really belong here.
Right. And then we find out.
He belonged. He belonged.
Right. And he had that birthright. Right. He had that birthright. And even like the end, when he was the energy source, it reflected kind of just how powerful he is as an energy source. Just seeing, you saw all the foliage growing, and it was so much, he held so much power. That he ended up destroying. Like it.
Profound.
Right? Very, very profound. Another thing that kind of, what stood out to me about that whole lodge, the group thing, was when they were talking to the female character, the white character. I'm so sorry. I'm just going to call her Miss Birthright.
I'll take that.
When they were talking about this idea of the KKK, and she's like, they're not the KKK. The KKK is poor, and I also thought that was an interesting statement. Oh man, I really would like to talk to this guy, Matt.
How you just gonna throw some stuff like that in, man? Like, come on.
Because I see that reflected in modern day. I feel like that way about kind of like liberals and white liberals, and what was happening with Donald Trump. So when Donald Trump, came into office and people actually started seeing like the rest of the country was really rallied behind him, and then it was like build this wall, and then people were like up in arms like this guy is completely racist and blah, 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 blah. The thing is though, there for me is no difference between the poor racist person and the educated racist person, right? Because it's kind of like what Malcolm X said, there's nothing more dangerous than a liberal, because there's a sense of superiority that kind of like, I know better because I'm educated, but you still hold those core values.
You know better in your ignorance, from an ignorant standpoint, yet and still. Right.
Yeah. And so when she said that, like, oh, they're poor, but you guys still carry the same mindset. You still look down on Atticus. You still look down on Atticus. Right. He's still less than, So I thought that was a kind of like a very interesting kind of line and like a way of thinking.
And then to have her say it, to have it come from her. Yeah.
Right. Right. Also, for me, that stood out was when they went in search into the village when they were looking for his dad, and they ran upon that lady with the dog, with the two dogs, and she was talking about bears, black bears,
talking about black people,
right? Like, oh, they're clever, but they're not that clever,
and they're always sticking their nose where it shouldn't be, right? Like that,
right?
Yeah, that was interesting. I just thought like, okay. Cool little play on words.
Right. I mean? It was like, okay. I was so happy when when she got her shit.
Like we said, like in this show, like there's a lot of like layers, and I don't believe anything in the show is done for no reason.
Right.
Just
it's very intentional.
Right. So for them to not remember at first, I still don't know why. Like, what was it that was blocking them from remembering? And then Atticus, he of course could always remember what was going on.
Yeah,
I would like to know like where that would come from.
I mean, they chalked it up to it being a spell.
Yeah, no,
but it was like.
I think there's a deeper layer.
Right, right. I do too. I feel like there's a deeper, because they were also living their fantasy. Like you said, like, oh, you got all the clothes that you like. They fit you perfect, and you have all the books that you like. You love. Like
all the books. And then even when she needed salt, when she rang the bell for the salt, he just came and gave her salt. She didn't say that. Right. I need salt.
Right.
He just came and gave
and
it.
it was there.
Yeah.
Right. It's like he knew.
Right.
You know, I don't know. Actually, while we're talking to him, I'm having like a slight epiphany, and I'm thinking that maybe that kind of really stands for kind of what is reflected now of that whole idea of not materialism, but in a sense of being distracted by your desires instead of the truth. You know, because that's what they're there for. They're there for truth, to find out where the Father is, why he's there. And then now you're so easily distracted by your closing books.
And then Uncle George comes out and he's like, I could stay here forever. Really? I wonder if that's by design.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And then if we could just relate it to just society, one person being aware of what's going on, one person being aware of the dangers, one person being aware of what the mission should be, and then everybody else is just like
distracted, and I gotta get you back.
What are you even talking about?
Right?
Did that really happen? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
and then looking at him like he's crazy.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah,
you were there,
and then try to bring up his traumas of like, you were in the war.
Right.
I know I was in the war.
Right.
But I'm not
I was
crazy.
there.
Yeah.
Right. I was there. I know.
Yeah. So that was interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And then even kind of learning a little bit more about the lodge and understanding like why it's there, why it was built.
I think it was interesting. The main Braithwaite, where Atticus stands up and he tells everybody to get out, and then he gives him an order, and he's like, essentially what he said was, my beliefs begin and end where they believe it.
Right.
That was so crazy to me.
Right.
Like, I only pretend to believe or go by these rules because they go by these rules. Right.
And he benefits from it.
Right.
But once he doesn't benefit from it, he's like,
I'm not doing that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I found it interesting that the original lodge had burned down and they rebuilt it, which says a lot. An institution burning down and them like saying, no, we're going to rebuild this. We had.
We still have the laws and people who's willing to believe.
Yeah, we just rebuild it.
We'll just
carry on.
Get this back up and running.
Yeah. So, I thought that was an interesting, just a little tidbit. Like, he's not going to stop. They're not stopping what they're growing or what they're building. Like, that fire isn't going to stop their institution. And I think that does say a lot about just the institution of America, like psychologically, what America has built and what has kind of like broken down and rebuilt. And I think that
just even
blacks in general could learn from that to understand, like
in the craziest ways. Where it's just like, I actually was having this conversation just the other day, where it's like, all right, let's go back to burning something down and rebuilding it. Slavery is not on the fields anymore. Right. But that, to me, that doesn't mean it's gone.
It isn't. It isn't. It's just, because we're mentally enslaved. On top of the prison complex, Like,
but come on, they just rebuild it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Which is parallel to what happened to the White House. It originally burned down and they just rebuilt it.
It's crazy because, like I said, like once you have the writing of how you did it, you just tweak one or two things. You make it a little more prettier. We'll paint it white.
Right.
We'll paint it white.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. We'll just cover up the imperfections.
Yeah.
But nobody's gonna notice.
Make it more presentable, and then people will believe, oh, it's over. No.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so far I'm really loving this conversation, but I do want to take like a quick break. So our next sponsor is Spellbound, which is a natural herb company. So, we'll take this break and then we'll be back. And while this break is playing, friends, again, I will ask you to follow, share this episode, and repeat. So,
listen, just tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend.
Yes, thank you. We'll be right back. Have you kept up with your herbal health? Strengthen your body's immune system and natural functions with Spellbound Herbals. Created in small batches, each herbal elixir is made from organic non-GMO plants and roots, organic honey harvested from New York State bees, and sealed in bamboo-covered glass to preserve freshness. Crafted to promote the specific needs of men and women, just a few drops in a glass of juice or water makes a world of difference to your natural health. For more details, visit the Spellbound Apothecary online at spellboundtoday.com and place your order. Also, for smokers searching for a natural alternative to tobacco, check out their herbal smoke blends, crafted from delicious flowers and plants that stimulate the mind, relax the body, and set the mood. Try enhancing your favorite bud strand with a few sprinkles of Third Eye Magic or Love Me Long Time. Available again at spellboundtoday.com. So thanks, guys, for holding out while we just take that break. And I hope that you did share with a friend. Also, you can check out our last episode, which was Showdown. And also, there are 2 nostalgia movie reviews. Last week, there was the Crooklyn review that I did with Tamarsha, which is the 1994. I don't want to say it's a comedy, even though they say it was like a comedy drama, but Crooklyn, written by Spike Lee, which is a coming of age story about a young girl in Brooklyn, which is a really beautiful movie. So please check that out as well. And don't forget to leave your comments or voicemails. Let us know what you think. And also, if you have any suggestions, please don't be shy and share that along with us. So before the break, Mackenson and I, we were really like breaking down like the different layers of what was really happening in the episode. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I like you, I think like there's just so many layers, and we're only 2 episodes in. Mm-hmm. And we both watched it, yeah. So we know it just goes deeper, just completely deeper down the rabbit hole.
Deeper down the rabbit hole, it gets way more beautiful.
It does.
It's powerful through and through. Mm-hmm. You know, it's powerful through and through. There's a particular episode that I just
you're waiting for.
Yeah,
I want to say there's 2. There's one that I can't wait to delve back into, because I feel like I didn't have the time to really process the episode. And of course, when it comes up, I'll definitely share, because I'm like thinking about it now, and I'm like, yeah, I feel like I'm seeing it in my mind, and I'm like, it was such a good episode, but I didn't really get to process what was happening, because it's not like let's just stick with this.
If you're talking about the episode I think you're talking about, I have so many questions for you during that episode. So many questions.
Yeah. So I mean, is there anything about, I just can't find anything that I don't like about it. I hate to sound like a groupie.
That I don't like. Not anything that I don't like. I think there's just certain things that I don't understand just as yet. The monsters, right?
How about the monster? How about the cow giving birth to the monster?
Like stuff, like little stuff like that.
I didn't catch that the first time, and I was like, "What the hell?"
Just little stuff like that, and then he's like, "Did you do this before?" And it's like, "No, it's my first time."
No, but you were acting like,
yeah, and it was like it seemed like it was supposed to be like a sentimental moment for them.
Yes,
and it's like,
how
okay.
so? You give birth to monsters?
Right.
Like what?
From a cow?
Right. What? Right. Explain that.
Right. You know what I mean? Because to me,
maybe that's the sci-fi part that we're just supposed to accept.
I get that, but in us saying that this is a great show and they do nothing for no reason,
there has
explain
to be.
that.
Yeah, right.
You know
right.
what I mean? Like, all right, that one went over my head.
Right.
Like I could catch the Whitey on the moon. I could, you know, this I don't get it.
No, I'm with you on that because when I was watching it for the second time and it happened, I was just like, wow, I didn't catch that. Mm-hmm. And why the hell is the goddamn cow giving a birth to a goddamn monster? What?
Like what?
Who did that?
And then for me also as well, and it's something that I'm trying to pay attention to as I rewatch it. Mm-hmm. But I always got the sense of the monsters are not trying to hurt black people. Was that just me?
Me too.
Like that was, and I'm like, okay, but at times it does seem like they're gonna attack,
right?
But then
they don't.
You helping in what?
Right.
You know
like,
what I mean?
What do you actually stand for?
Right. That's something to think about.
Yeah,
find out the purpose of the monsters.
Yeah, because I was gonna say usually I kind of like, well, what do you don't like? But I can't really see something I don't like. Like you said, it's more like make it make sense, or how does it fit into such a integral, detailed story that, like you said, everything seems to have, there's an intention behind to why something is happening or why the characters are saying certain things. I wanted to really touch base a little on when they were trapped in their rooms.
Okay.
And they were each
presented
with a desire, or except for Atticus, I felt like his was not a desire. It literally was a battle. Maybe
it was just something that was like something that was lingering in the subconscious mind, like just so heavy that it manifested. You know,
right?
For Letitia, it's Atticus. Okay. You know, y'all been riding together for a little while.
Right.
Maybe it's been in the back of your mind.
Right.
For Atticus, he just came from the war. You know what I mean? So that's probably still in the back of his mind. And then for Uncle George, it's Atticus's mother, I believe.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. I was supposed to say that first, but
yeah, well, you're right. Yeah.
But yeah, so that probably, you know, he's with Atticus. It's the journey to find out, you know.
But that interaction but Uncle George knew right away that it wasn't real. He knew right when she appeared, you're not real.
And then she says, well, have this moment with me anyway.
Yeah.
And he's like,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Right.
But I think because his was the most blatant though to me. Like, no, you're gone. You passed away.
Right.
So I think
so he already knew. Like he could already touch and hold that and be like, you're definitely a memory. Right. You're definitely not here. But I do like what he said to them when they emerged. Like, don't let them get into your head. Like, you know, and I think that's something, again, that us as a culture of people need to remember. Absolutely. Like, don't let them get into your head. Don't let them use your desires, your traumas against you. Yep. You know, you are stronger than that. And if we can stick together, you know what I'm saying, we're gonna come through this.
Absolutely.
So,
like, this show is crazy.
Yeah. And they did.
Yep.
They did.
Stuck together, got through it.
Yeah. I guess another spoiler alert.
Okay. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. When they finally find Dad.
Yeah.
And Dad is so fucking ungrateful.
He's gonna be him.
He's so ungrateful.
He's gonna be him.
You know, it was just like they went through hell. They almost died numerous times. They've been traumatized upon trauma to come get you, and the first thing you say is, "What are you doing? Why are you here?"
Right.
Like, right. With just such venom.
I feel like every character represents a character.
Yes.
Right?
And I say all of that to say, I guess there is that one Negro, you know, that you know, no matter what, still is harboring that anger, can't let that past go. Because, of course, as we watch and we get to know more and more about him.
He's been through it.
Yeah.
He's been through it.
Yeah.
You know? And sometimes that demeanor is like the only thing that you found that could protect you.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Not that you're actually ungrateful. I mean, it is a protection. You know, I can't show my emotions
at all.
I can't, and I don't know how. I don't know how, because I have been so traumatized. Yep. You know, I can't even grasp it anymore, even though I could recognize it, but I can't relate to it.
And then possibly, what happens to me if I do relate to it?
Right.
You know what I mean?
How does that change me?
How, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know.
So, another deep episode. Again, like I said, I'm so happy that I have someone to revisit this show with. If you are listening again, please share this podcast, Fox on Flix. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Apple Podcasts. You can find it on Stitcher. You can find it on Google. And just recently, I just started an Instagram page, Fox on Flix.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been slacking. Nice. So I just started it. So please, find me or find the podcast on Instagram. It is under the name Fox on Flix. So we'll start seeing stuff posted regularly, reminders of old podcasts that you can go and listen to, upcoming podcasts. I might even throw a picture or two up there of the guests so you can see exactly who's speaking. And then let's start having a real dialogue. And again, if you have any suggestions, because this podcast is to share different movies and television shows of the Black diaspora. So all over. I don't want people to think it's just American shows that I'm just watching. Things that are just based on foundational Black Americans. I want to watch Brazilian shows and, Haitian movies and, Colombian, we got some Blacks in Colombian, Mexican movies.
Everywhere where it's just everybody wants their experiences to be recognized. Right. So
African movies from all over, we just want Black people's stories to be told and to be recognized and not for anyone to feel left out. But I also want this to be a platform where we start to appreciate each other's differences and each other's journeys.
And then and recognize the similarities.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Recognize them, appreciate them, and let's start to really have a real dialogue and a real support of one another. Absolutely. And I think film, not just stories, because people read. I love to read, but it's becoming such a... I don't want to say something that's old school, because it's not, reading, like they said back in the day, reading is fundamental. But we live in such a fast-paced society now where it's kind of movie shows. But let's really start watching things of value that have depth to them. So that's what I want this platform to be. So again, if you are listening, please share with people who want to broaden their horizons. If you have any suggestions, I would appreciate that too.
It's an amazing platform, amazing purpose.
Thank you. Well, I guess with all that being said, I guess we've come to the end. Okay. So again, we just reviewed the second episode of Lovecraft Country, Whitey on the Moon. We're going to be doing this every week, right? Yeah. So please join us next week for the third episode. I don't know what the name of it is, but
we'll be here.
We'll be here. Exactly. And please don't forget to listen to the other podcasts. Like I said, I just did Crooklyn with Tamarsha. That was a really good movie. And like I said, it's a coming of age of a little Black girl in Brooklyn in the mid 70s. It has a great soundtrack. A really, really awesome soundtrack. A lot of quote unquote classics from the time. Also, there's a little bit older podcasts. Passing was one of the movie reviews that I did on my own that you can find on Netflix, which is from an actual book from the Harlem Renaissance. It's about two light-skinned black women, one deciding to marry a black man and live her life as a black woman, and her friend who married a white man and decided to live secretly as a white woman, and them coming together years later and how that transpired as adults and kind of what happens after that. So I would definitely like you guys to listen to that, watch it also. And again, you can leave actual voicemails on the podcast as well as leave your comments. And please follow on Instagram, Fox on Flix. So until next time, I'm Fox Indigo. Thank you for listening. Love, kisses, and hugs. That's a wrap.